When you think of mountains in America, what comes to mind? There should be two main areas you're thinking of, the Rockies and the Appalachians. Those are the two main ranges in America. But there are many other areas that vary greatly in elevation, whether that be just hills or very pronounced mountain-like objects. So today I'm here to tell you about some of America's forgotten mountain ranges. Before the video starts, I wanted to ask if you would please consider subscribing to the channel. Look guys, I got an extra video here to show I'm really trying my hardest on this channel. So if you enjoy the content, I would seriously appreciate it if you just click the subscribe button. Thank you so much. So let's start by getting this out of the way. I consider the Rockies and the Appalachians to be the entire stretch of mountainous land going through the country and into Canada. These ranges do have different regions inside of them. In the Rockies range, obviously you have the Colorado Rockies, but you also have the Sierra Nevada range, Bitterroot range, North Cascades, and many more throughout the western part of the continent. For the Appalachians, you have the Blue Ridge and Shenandoah Mountains in the south, the Appalachian Plateau, the Green and White Mountains in the north, the Adirondacks in New York. There are so many different areas inside of what I consider the Appalachians and the Rockies, but that's not what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about areas separated from these ranges in the more central part of the country, specifically this area here. So let's start ourselves out with the Ozarks, probably the third most known mountain range in the country. So the Ozarks are located in Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri. They consist of a main area in Arkansas, as well as a more disconnected part in Missouri and the Mark Twain National Forest, as well as the Osage region. The area in Arkansas is the most pronounced, with its tallest peak being on Buffalo Lookout in the portion north of the I-40 corridor, 2,516 feet above sea level. Major cities located in the Ozarks include Fort Smith, the Fayetteville area, Branson, and Osage Beach, with the Lake of the Ozarks Metro. Next up, we have the Driftless Area of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. So this one I'm a lot more familiar with, so I know more of how exactly it got here. Basically, you can figure it out just by the name. The area had no drift. So what is drift? Well, basically what it means is there is no glaciation in the area, meaning it lacks the glacial deposit known as drift. So what this makes for is a very, very hilly, beautiful region that not a lot of people know exist. There are a lot of areas here hard to tell apart from the Appalachians because of how large the hills are. And especially along the Mississippi River, it's super beautiful. The best way to take it all in would be the Great River Road from Prairie du Chien, especially up to La Crosse, but the road does go as far north as the Twin Cities. Now the highest point in the Driftless area is the West Blue Mound, up at 1,719 feet above sea level, in the aptly named city of Blue Mounds. This is located around half an hour out of Madison, Wisconsin. The two major cities located inside the Driftless area are La Crosse and Dubuque, which are built very differently from each other, with one being in a valley surrounded by hills, and the other being built onto the hills, making for a very interesting topography and some nice expensive house locations. Next we have the Black Hills, the most western area I'll be mentioning in this video. So I'll start by saying that the Black Hills are technically a very old, disconnected part of the Rocky Mountains, but they've grown so far apart nobody really considers it that way anymore. So the Black Hills are located in western South Dakota, pushing slightly into northeast Wyoming. You may know the area for being home to Mount Rushmore. Historically, the region was known for mining and timber, with a large gold rush occurring here in the late 1800s. The area is probably more tourism-oriented than any other region I'll be mentioning in this video, with some tourist-trapped towns and obviously Mount Rushmore being located there. The highest point in the Black Hills is at Black Elk Peak, which reaches as high as 7,242 feet above sea level. Major-ish cities located in or around the Black Hills include Rapid City, Sturgis, Spearfish, Custer, and Deadwood. Next we have the Iron Range in the northeast corner of Minnesota. This is quite an obscure one that doesn't really get much tourism at all. It's a very hilly and extremely forested region north of Duluth, and I do think it's extremely underrated. Now the term Iron Range refers to a number of iron ore mining districts around Lake Superior. They technically aren't mountains, but instead just glacially caused hilly regions. With this, I also feel it's important to mention the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and the Porcupine Range. This is the same type of thing, so I felt like it was necessary to mention. There isn't an exact place considered to be the tallest peak, but it does get to around 2,000 feet above sea level in the most extreme areas. The only real major city located here is Duluth, which is definitely affected by the topography of the region, being one of the hilliest cities in the country. Next, I wanted to mention that none of these are actually full mountain ranges, but instead just topographically varied areas that feel sort of like mountains. Anyways, with that, lastly I wanted to mention two areas that aren't really that pronounced, but instead are just interesting topographically speaking. Those are the hill country of Texas and the sand hills of Nebraska. So starting with the hill country, it's a region located north and west of San Antonio and Austin. There's a lot of ranching here, but it's also very quickly becoming more populated than empty, with people moving in because of how beautiful it is here. Killeen is the only big city I'd really say is located inside the hill country, but you also have the more touristy town of Fredericksburg, though a little bit smaller. Anyways, on to the sand hills. Now, Nebraska is a very misunderstood state, because me mentioning it in a mountain ranges video may be very confusing to you. Well, basically most people only see Nebraska as the flat farmland located along I-80 from Ogallala to Omaha. But if you were to travel off the highway at all in the western part of the state, you'd be met with the very hilly and absolutely beautiful area called the Nebraska Sand Hills. There really isn't much here for actual life, but only small towns. But there are a ton of really cool things going on here. So if you ever want to take a more secluded trip, Nebraska might have to be your destination. Mountain ranges make geography so much more interesting, turning boring cities into absolutely beautiful cities, and affecting how the country developed greatly. Thanks for watching. Thank you to my members this week: Somnom Woods, Big Pasty, Karen Hudson 81, Stormy Knight, Nikita Martinoff, KMS 162, Zeus, Haystack, Benjamin Whiting, Ryan Devins, Hazev the Wolf, Jake Holloway, JL, Jeremy Crone, Carport, Dominic Psyche, Rosebud 4, and Bryson. I really appreciate you guys. You help out the channel so much. If you want to become a channel member, the link is in the description below, as well as the join button next to the subscribe button. All of this money goes straight into my college savings, so you know you're giving it to a good cause and I'm not spending it on a bunch of really dumb stuff. Anyways, thank you all so much.